Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a Gundam X Hello Kitty collaboration, and what this is, it's a Gunpla model, but it's also a Hello Kitty model, and this is the SDCX version. So SDCS is actually for short, deformed, and cross silhouette, which is the type of Gundam models that you can get. And this one will have the Gundam RX-78-2 and also the Hello Kitty. But you can actually build the two models separately, and then you can combine them together into a single Hello Kitty Gundam, which is going to be really cool. I do apologize if it seems like my talking is not synced in with what's going on in the video. I just checked my audio right now from the recording, and it came out very choppy, and I think it was an OBS issue. So unfortunately, I'm just going to be doing a voiceover. But I won't actually talk a lot through this video just because there's not much to discuss. But we'll just get started. So as you can see, these are the runners, and it's actually really interesting how they separate this out. So the Hello Kitty model will have the Hello Kitty and the bow tie, and so you know which ones are the runners for, or the sheets for, the Hello Kitty model, while the Gundam models are just gonna have the square boxes for the runners. And so it's actually very easy to organize because you can just work on the Hello Kitty together like this, so you can see that the bow and the Hello Kitty face makes up for the Hello Kitty. So I thought that was a really cool just kind of detail that was added on to this. And if you look at these series here, this is the Gundam model series, and this is actually all rectangular, and it's going to be kind of confusing just because both of them have sheet A and B. But it should be pretty easy to follow along, because when you work in the Hello Kitty model, you just kind of make sure you're using that one stack of the runners versus the rectangular stacks, which would be the Gundam models. So if we take a look at the manual real quick, we're going to see that it will be separated for the Hello Kitty model first, and then we'll go into the Gundam model afterwards. And it actually shows you kind of the sheet on top of which ones to use, or which ones to reference as you're building along. I just want to point out, if you see here, it's going to say A6 and A17. And so this is referring to sheet A, or runner A, for the Hello Kitty. And actually says Hello Kitty in Japanese on the runner, just in case you're confused which one to use. So we're going to be looking at this here, and then look for part A6, which is going to be number 6 of sheet A. And then we'll also look for A17 afterwards. So A17 here is the yellow one that you're going to see kind of right underneath the A right there. Even though the manual says no tools or glue necessary, I do like using this kind of typical nipper that's specifically made for Gundam models. And this one's actually just an entry-level nipper because I don't need to get too fancy with this one. So what you just do is kind of just cut on the thicker side of the runner right there. So as you can see, what we call the runner is actually the plastic framework that connects the parts to the actual sheet. So the whole sheet itself is actually just called the runner. And then when you get near the part of the runner that's supposed to be connected, we call that the nub. And so we want to make sure that we are kind of cutting away from the nub first, just so that we don't stress out the plastic in the wrong places. And now that we have free access to it, I'm actually just going closer with my nipper and actually nip off all the nubs and kind of get as close to the model as possible. The reason why we do this two-step process so that we don't accidentally cause stress marks or nub marks kind of on the parts itself. So it's actually better if we cut it first away from the part, just because that initial cut sometimes might actually cause strain, and you're going to kind of get a white mark or stress mark on the plastic. So we just kind of want to avoid that by doing this cut process. There are some parts where I actually will just cut right up against it without doing a two-cut process. And these are for parts like this one, A17, which is, if you look at the manual, none of this part is going to really show where the nub marks are going to be. So I actually don't mind if I don't have a clean cut, just because that part will never show in the model once it's built. So you can kind of look ahead in the manual and just see when you want to cut from the runner, or if you want to cut just straight from near the part, and it really depends on if it's going to be shown or not. And so all you really have to do is just kind of look at the manual, and it's really great that they have the isometric diagrams. So you just kind of follow along one step at a time and start just attaching it according to the order. Sometimes the orders don't matter, but sometimes the manual will actually say which part to put in first, because sometimes some of the parts needs to be put in a sequence because they will be overlapping. So if you just follow that in the instructions really carefully, you should be able to kind of just follow along the manual, and it shouldn't be too complicated as you're building this. But I'm actually gonna stop talking now because this model was actually pretty straightforward, so there's nothing to really talk about. I might comment more later once we build both the Hello Kitty and the Gundam model, as we look to kind of combine the two models together to create the Hello Kitty Gundam model, which is really cool. So sit back and relax, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Nope.
So I've taken apart some of the model parts so that I have actually better access to each part so that I can actually start doing some panel lining. So as you can see here, there are going to be some grooves or score marks along the model itself, and you can actually use this panel line accent color, and it's kind of like an ink that you use to kind of just fill it in, and it actually uses capillary action. So all you have to do is just kind of get near the score mark, and it will actually absorb through the score mark with the capillary action so that it fills in with the panel line. You don't have to worry about getting it all within the score line. You might actually have some parts bleed out or might actually be on the surface instead, but don't worry too much about that right now, because afterwards what we'll be using is some rubbing alcohol, and if you have acetone you can use it too, but I like using rubbing alcohol so it doesn't damage the plastic by accident. But I actually like using this kind of Gundam marker too. This is the actually fine tip pen one where I can actually just draw in the line itself. So this one is actually a little bit different, and the way that the score mark looks is very different when you do panel lining with this. And this is actually meant for areas where it's actually not a score mark, where it's just a groove. You might have a little bit of indentation, but only on one side. And so those areas, the panel line won't work that as well if you just use the ink. So you're gonna have to use some pen like the one I'm using right now. And there are also Gundam markers that you can use to kind of do some panel lining, and it really depends on kind of like what kind of groove or score mark it is and what kind of surface you're putting it onto. So if you have kind of like a completely kind of groove on the plastic itself, then you can use this kind of accent ink, which actually kind of sucks it up really easily. But if not, you might want to start using some of the panel liners. And I know some people like to do the custom paint jobs, but I actually don't like doing all the paint stuff just because it just takes too much time and effort. And I kind of do just like the kind of original kind of plastic colors anyway, so I rarely do the actual custom paint.
So once you're done with the panel lining, you can use isopropyl alcohol. This one is 91%. And I'm actually using a cotton swab, and I'm actually just making sure that it's just kind of slightly moist to the touch. And then I'm actually using it to kind of running along the surface to kind of just clean up any of the inks that might have bled out, or if there are any mistakes I made. This will actually help clean up and make the lines a bit crisper, because it will actually not really touch the ink that's already inside the score marks. So this is a really great way of just cleaning up all your the kind of panel lining to make sure that it looks very clean. And this is what it looks like with all the panel lining. So you can see here all the kind of grooves are kind of filled in with this black ink, and it's actually really not that hard to do. So I really do suggest you do this if you want to kind of make your models look a little bit more accented. And here are some final images of the Hello Kitty, and then also the Gundam RX-78-2, and then we're going to show you some photos of the Hello Kitty Gundam, which is the two combined into a single model. And then you're going to see in the background there's going to be the Hello Kitty body with the RX-78-2 head, just because I didn't really know what to do with it, so I just kind of topped it onto Hello Kitty's body. And here's the final product with the panel lining. And thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and if you did, please hit that like button. And also consider subscribing, and I hope to see you guys next time.